With my engine teardown just around the corner, I figured I should actually address how I plan to do the K-swap on my SI. See my one video formally committing to doing a K-swap, I left a lot of open ends, and I know there's a lot of questions about just the general concept of how does it work. So my goal for this video is to actually try and illustrate, jeez, I'm not the best artist. Actually try to illustrate and explain what parts I'm using, where they go, and the basic concept of how it all works. Hey, that's a cool wallet. Where'd you get it? This just so happens to be my wallet from today's video sponsor, Simply Carbon Fiber. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Simply Carbon Fiber, they make carbon fiber accessories such as wallets, cases, glasses, jewelry, all sorts of cool items. Now, what car guy doesn't like carbon fiber, right? It's light, it's rigid, and it looks cool. This wallet is an extremely slim design that fits in your pocket, is super light, carries a few cards that you need, some cash, put it in, ready to go, easy as that. A sponsorship like this isn't something I would usually do unless it's a company I truly support. And that's why I'm glad to present a quality product like this and a product that actually interests me. Like I said earlier, car guys love carbon fiber. Simple as that. And I'm sure a lot of you would like something like this too. If you are interested, I have a code down below in the description. You can check out Simply Carbon Fiber's website and use my code to get 10% off. Using this code below massively helps out the channel because, as you guys know, I'm not necessarily a very big channel. And companies like Simply Carbon Fiber that are willing to help me out make a huge difference. So please, if it does interest you, be sure to check it out. Let's get started with a basic model here. You should just buy Type R. Get out. Get out. All right, we're gonna have to use our imagination a lot on these. All right, we're keeping it simple here. Let's say this box simply represents my engine bay. Engine, right? K20C4 turbo out of an Accord. A lot of detail on this one, right? This is an FK8 Type R transmission. It's important to note that there's actually two different options you could go with on here. You can go with the Accord 6-speed transmission, which is a cheaper option. It'll mate up just the same and work fine. But the Accord transmission does not have an LSD. Sure, you could actually swap in the LSD from the Type R transmission into the Accord trans if you want to, but it's more time, more money, and then also the Type R trans has shorter gears. And for me, in my specific situation, I'd rather just have the trans ready to go, shorter gears, better for track. So in my case, K20C4 with an FK8 trans. So what's holding all of this in? That would be Type R motor mounts. So yes, you can use OEM mounts. You don't need some sort of special custom mounts. OEM Type R mounts work. I'm using Hasport ones in my case just because they're more rigid, they're gonna be better on track. But you have one on the left, one on the right, and then you have one in the rear to control lateral movement. Simple as that. Buy them, bolts right up. Let's talk about axles for a second because this is kind of, this is a rough part. This is actually one of the biggest downsides to the build, and that's because the axles have to be custom made. So your axles, right, come out by the trans, you got your half shaft, and the axles run out and put the power down to the wheels. So Type R axles do not work because the Type R axles have a different hub and it would be a different size. You could change over to Type R suspension, but at that point, it doesn't seem worth it to me. And then other axles like the Accord axles, you have different lengths. Either way, you're not getting around making custom axles. So that is gonna run about $1,500, $2,000, no exceptions really. And there's also a build time on that. So custom axles, probably gonna be the worst part of this whole build. Before I get too far into this, I wanna go over a couple more specific issues. One of them being the cams. The SI ECU will work, and I'll go over that in a minute, but it can't control VTEC. So that means you either have to have, and on these motors, VTEC is only on the exhaust side. That's another important note. So that means you have to either have VTEC permanently off. You can mechanically lock it to be permanently on using something like locking pins. So VTEC is permanently on, or you can find a way to electronically control it so that you can turn VTEC on and off with, say, a switch or an RPM-based window. Another small detail would be actually the motor mount. The rear motor mount, yes, it does bolt up, but if you're using an Accord engine, you have to switch over to a Type R oil pan, because the Type R oil pan has the motor mount that'll bolt up to the SI subframe, but the Accord oil pan, the motor mount would be more on this side and it wouldn't line up. So you have to change over the oil pan, and while you're there, you have to change over the oil pump and the baffle plates, some like really minor stuff, but that's another important note. So you have to change a couple parts on that motor. That is also the reason I haven't torn down my engine yet, because oil pans are on back order, and I have to set up this motor before I can take my motor out and put the new one in. Honda, send me an oil pan. That really covers the bulk of the big parts. Now it's time to get into some of the more small details. Basic concept of these motors, the way they're laid out, exhaust manifold is casted into the engine. So the turbo bolts directly onto the engine. You have your hot side here, and your cold side is going to be here. Yeah, that's a turbo if you really try to picture it. And then your intake is going to be here, and it's supposed to wrap around the top, something like that. Yeah, that's not a great picture. But yeah, your intake would be over here. It sucks in air over the turbo right there. So your exhaust then runs down and under the engine, and the exhaust comes out the back. For your intercooling system, you're going to have your pipes that come around. Let's see, you got your intercooler here, and then that's going to run around the back of the engine into the intake manifold here. And that intake manifold will then suck air in, and that's the combustion cycle, and it'll repeat in that way if you can try to read this picture. This is your basic visual, but let's get now more specific into parts. The turbo, for one, this is actually a really interesting one, because you're not limited to just one turbo. You're not even limited to just one car-specific turbo. You can use any Type R turbo. In my case, I'm using the OEM Type R turbo. But you can even use an SI turbo on this car. The first person to do this was Alex, and he used the Garrett turbo kit for an SI. And he made good power on that. And the guy I'm talking to now, Tony, used a Type R turbo. So that's one thing to consider. One of the issues, though, if you do go with an SI turbo, you're kind of going to have to use the Garrett turbo kit because it's the only one that's of a decent size. All the other SI turbos are way too small for this engine. Intake-wise, I'm using a PRL turbo inlet for a Type R. Yes, that bolts up. Intercooling system, I'm using the Greddy intercooler kit. So there's actually a specific reason I'm using that, and that's because the Type R intercooler, right? So you do retain your, not intercooler, you do retain your OEM SI radiator. And the SI radiator is actually wider than the Type R radiator. And the Greddy intercooler kit is unique compared to the other intercoolers because the pipes on the end, the casting of the intercooler has pipes that connect straight out, where the other intercoolers have a casted 90-degree bend. And a lot of those can have interferences with the SI radiator. So use the Greddy intercooler kit, and that should clear SI radiator. One of the things I haven't figured out yet, though, supposedly some people don't have AC. I'm running AC. No, I don't like sweating. I'll figure it out. That's not really determined yet, but I'll figure out how to run AC. A couple other details I wanted to throw in there. For the trans, you can use any Type R clutch. So I'm using, what am I using? I'm using a Clutchmasters flywheel and their clutch kit. And then for shifter cables, use Type R shifter cables, and it should fit to the SI shifter. Looking at this, I think I really covered the general layout of the engine and a lot of the major points, except there is one other thing I have to mention, and that is, of course, the ECU. Now, I need you guys to hold on here, all right? I don't want to lose anyone, right? Get this. You can use the SI ECU with this whole setup. Mic drop, all right? Crazy. I don't know why some people don't understand. You don't need to spend several $1,000s on a Motec, some sort of standalone. No, the SI ECU works, a little bit of splicing. Other than that, works perfectly, right? Tuning, everything should be great, no engine lights. You can use the SI ECU. That is another big reason why this swap does make sense. You're an idiot, just buy a Type R. Now, of course, I know you guys are still going to have comments because there's a lot of small details I haven't covered. Again, bear in mind, I haven't started this yet. So I'm breaking this all down in detail, my full experience. I'll go over everything. And there's going to be a lot of things that come up along the way that you can't plan for. Anytime you do a project like this, there's going to be unexpected moments, and I'll be sure to account for that and add it to the list, and factor that into the time and the budget and all that, and make everyone aware. Let me talk about people saying, just buy a Type R. This doesn't make sense. It does, for a lot of reasons. Okay, let's first go over the financials. To buy a Type R, you're looking at double the cost of an SI, right? That's just the car. This is going to be making more power than just a stock Type R. So then you're going to be looking at full bolt-ons plus insulation, blah, blah, blah. That adds a lot more to the cost. Quick note I remembered while editing, that is that parting out your car will deduct a lot from the cost as well. So by selling all the parts in my car now, it will end up taking a lot from the final cost at the end. And like I've been saying, I'll go over all those numbers once the build is complete. But that also means if you are interested in any of the parts of my engine bay right now, you can message me on my new Instagram or email me, whatever works. But if you're interested in any of those parts, let me know. Here you're looking at a relatively simple install because the word engine swap is daunting. It's a big word. But you're putting it's basically the same layout as an L15, just beefed up. And you're putting a new Honda motor in a new Honda, essentially. So it's not that crazy. We're not putting a Ferrari motor in a Toyota. It's a Honda motor going in a Honda. And the fact that a lot of people don't know you can use the SI-ECU, that's a big saver. The Accord engine, right? To use the Type R engine, yes, you would have to switch to Motec. But the Accord engines you can pick up for a quarter of the price of the Type R. They're so similar, and you can use the ECU, and it saves you a ton of money. Another reason I'm doing this on a personal level is that I love this stuff. Like, I simply just like doing this. The Type R is a great car. You can buy a Type R, it's ready to go. But I like having something that is unique and that's mine. I like that it's going to be sleeper and that it's an experience. And I just like tinkering with things like this. This is what I like to do. And that's why I'm making videos about it too, because I enjoy it and I want to share that with people, and I want to help try to educate about what's going on here and share my experience with other people. I think that's everything I wanted to point out in this video. Don't forget to check out Simply Carbon Fiber. Do not forget. I hope this simple drawing kind of gives the basic idea of what's going to be going on, so it helps everyone follow along a little better. I have another video coming out this week as well. So super busy, ton of stuff going on. And then I'm hoping at the end of this week that I will have everything I need, and then I can set up that motor and actually move forward with this project. I'm super excited. I hope everyone else still is. Be sure to subscribe if you are interested and this is something you want to follow along with. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.